Welcome to Revenge Report. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more. Let's dive in. The guard's scanner beeped green, but the gate stayed down. I stood there in the sun, dust settling on my boots, ID still dangling from my lanyard. The young guy in uniform, maybe 23 tops, stared down at my wrist like I'd handed him a live grenade. "You got a problem?" I asked. He didn't answer. His eyes were locked on the tattoo. A phoenix scorched into my skin years ago, rising from a curl of flame. Scar tissue made it jagged. Then came the voice I hadn't heard in almost 7 years. "That fake mark is an insult." I turned around, and there he was. Thomas Arris, retired emergency services director. My father. Still broad-shouldered, still built like the command post had to bow to him. His mouth was tight, jaw locked. I knew that face too well. It was the one he wore every time I embarrassed him. He stepped toward the guard. "She doesn't belong here. Escort her off base." The young man froze, eyes wide. Phones were already up behind him. Civilian contractors, off-duty responders, half a dozen staff waiting in line. Of course, people were filming. This place ran on protocol and spectacle. My father knew that. I didn't move, didn't say a word, just looked at him. The guard shifted, glancing between us, clearly panicking. Sir, her credentials cleared the scan. She's listed on the audit roster." My father's voice sharpened. "That ink is reserved for responders. Real ones." I didn't flinch. He wanted shame. I gave him silence. Quick note: before listening, share which city or country you're watching from. Phones kept recording. People stopped pretending not to watch. One guy from logistics dropped his breakfast burrito trying to zoom in. Then the base sergeant moved like he was going to step in, probably to de-escalate, maybe to side with command. Before he could, a voice cut through. "That mark saved my life." Out of the admin building came Director Matthew Cole, cool, steady, high, and clear. He stopped between us, rolled up his sleeve, and showed the same phoenix, same flame, different wrist. "This woman was your incident commander, Ember Path. She earned that ink when the rest of us were still trying to catch up." Silence rippled out like a shockwave. On the airstrip nearby, a group of first responders turned. Someone called out, sharp and loud. One by one, they doffed their helmets, a formal honor gesture. Old school, quiet, powerful. Even the guard stood straighter, like he suddenly remembered he had orders from someone above Thomas Arris. I looked my father dead in the eye, nodded once, and said, "Thank you," to the guard as the gate finally rose. Cole gave me a short, respectful nod. My father didn't say a word, didn't follow. Just stood there, empty-handed, while the base moved on without him. The air inside the operations building was cooler, but my skin still burned. Not from the sun, from standing under my father's glare, that old familiar furnace of judgment. I kept walking until the hallway curved out of sight, then stopped and pulled my sleeve down over the phoenix. 15 years ago, that mark wasn't a symbol. It was a scar that chose me. Operation Ember Path had started like any other high-alert wildfire response. Central Oregon, dry lightning, wind shifts. We had 3 agencies on the line, federal, state, and volunteer crews, trying to beat a fire that changed direction every hour. I was 35, acting incident commander, youngest on the roster by a full decade. Cole, back then just Davis, was leading a 2-man advance recon team. They were in zone echo when the wind shifted hard and fast, and the evac route collapsed behind them. Command said pull back. But Davis radioed in that one of his rookies had fallen, heat stroke and a busted leg. And he wasn't leaving him. I knew what that meant. If we didn't go in, we'd be digging out bodies the next week. So I went. 1 engine team, 2 medics, and me. We cut a sideline through burning brush with hand tools and wet towels. We had maybe 30 minutes before the oxygen dropped. I found Davis dragging the kid toward a downed fence line, smoke rolling in sheets, fire crawling over the hill like it had a grudge. I grabbed Davis by the harness and pulled. We stumbled, tripped, crawled through ash and heat so bad I couldn't see my hands. I don't remember how we made it back, just the pressure of his weight and the grit in my teeth. We lost 5 responders that day. 5. After the mop-up, I stayed behind a few extra days to complete the casualty logs. That's when the artist found me. One of the locals we'd pulled out from a burned-out trailer park. Her brother hadn't made it. She didn't ask. Just came to the trailer I was sleeping in, pulled out a needle and ink made from charcoal and soot. She said, "If you carry the weight, carry the memory." That's how I got the Phoenix. Not for pride, not for decoration. It was a record. When my father saw it the first time, he didn't ask why. He said, "That's gang ink." You realize that, right? I was still peeling bandages off it. We were at a family barbecue in Boise. My sister's kid was climbing on the picnic table, and my wrist caught the light. I told him what it meant. I told him who gave it to me. He rolled his eyes. "Emotional indulgence," he said. "You want to remember the mission? File the damn report. This," he pointed at the ink, "this is theater." He'd never respected Ember Path. Said it was a reckless gamble, that we risked too much, ignored command hierarchy. Said I played cowboy. He didn't see the faces after. Didn't see the burn ward. Didn't see the rookie holding his mom's hand in the ICU. To him, rules were safety. Chain of command was God. To me, action was the thing. Do the job, take the risk, save the life. Figure out the rest later. That was the line drawn between us. He brought it up every holiday, every cookout, even at my mother's funeral, standing by the casket. "Still have that thing?" he muttered when I reached to fix a flower on the edge. Like it offended him more than grief did. Eventually, I stopped explaining, stopped expecting. I wore long sleeves, stayed quiet. Let the silence thicken until it felt normal. But out at that gate, with the sun on my neck and the helmeted heads bowing, I realized something. I never needed his approval to tell the story. The story was mine, written in heat, burned into skin, witnessed by the ones who mattered. I adjusted my sleeve, stepped into the command wing, and got to work. I had an audit to run. The canteen smelled like reheated chili and burnt coffee. I grabbed a tray, sat near the far window, and ate slow. Nobody sat with me at first. They watched, though, eyes flicking up, then back down to their phones. I already knew what they were looking at. By mid-morning, a clip of the gate standoff was floating through base chats. Different angles, shaky zooms, a few lines of half-cocked commentary. But the part that stuck, Cole's voice. "She was your incident commander." That line hit like a lightning strike. By lunch, the buzz had changed shape. A kid from logistics, probably barely out of high school, drifted over holding a soda. Didn't sit, just hovered. "Ma'am," he started, awkward. "You really led Ember Path?" I nodded. "Yeah." He blinked. "My cousin's in fire ops." "He still talks about that mission." Another tech down the row chimed in. "You going to teach crisis triage while you're here?" I glanced up. "You asking or suggesting?" The guy smirked. "Bit of both." "Then, yeah. I'll run a couple drills if command signs off." That was all it took. Word moves fast when respect gets in the bloodstream. By the time I dropped my tray off, my name was already on the mentoring board in the training hall. Not just typed in, handwritten, in permanent marker, right next to Cole's. I didn't ask who did it. Later, in the third-floor briefing room, Cole updated the roster. Lydia Eris will be leading Phase 2 of the audit, systems redundancy, evac protocol, and team readiness metrics. The room stiffened. A few junior officers exchanged looks. One leaned forward, not aggressive, but clearly unsure. "With your history, do you think it might skew your judgment on field evaluations?" I stared at him a beat longer than needed. "Only if it sharpens them," I said. He leaned back. Didn't argue. We moved on. I kept the focus where it belonged. Data, gaps, outcomes. No speeches, no nostalgia. The field eats sentiment. I wasn't about to feed it more. Still, the shift was obvious. By the time I wrapped the session and stepped outside, I could feel it. Not just curiosity now, but something heavier. Alignment? Nobody said anything as I passed the hangars, but people nodded. Not deep, not theatrical. Just that slight tilt that meant, we've seen the footage, we've heard the stories. You're one of us now. I didn't roll my sleeves up. I didn't have to. Rumor did the talking. I had barely made it back to the main admin corridor when a junior aide caught up to me, out of breath. "Director Eris, your father, he asked to see you. VIP lounge. Said it was personal, I didn't ask why. I didn't need to." The man didn't ask for meetings. He summoned storms. I walked in, closed the door behind me. He was already sitting at the table near the windows, blazer on, posture tight. The coffee pot steamed between us like a peace offering no one meant. "Sit," he said. I stayed standing. He stared up at me like he used to when I came home dirty from drills, smelling like diesel and soot. "Is this what you wanted?" "You'll need to be more specific." "That spectacle at the gate." His voice was even but hard. You planned it. The tattoo, the timing, the performance. Performance? I almost laughed. You shouted down your own daughter in front of a military checkpoint. That wasn't my show. You flaunted that mark like it's a badge. It is a badge. I stepped closer. A badge of survival. A reminder. Every name that didn't make it. Every one of us that barely did. His lip curled. You know what that symbol's become? A tribal mark. Us versus them. You wear it and expect reverence. It divides command. I leaned forward. It doesn't divide anything. It anchors me. Keeps me from forgetting what the job actually costs. You think memory gives you moral license? I think memory gives me clarity. And that scares you. His jaw twitched. He stood, walked to the coffee cart. You should have filed a report. Not branded yourself. I did both. You know what I mean? Yeah, I said. You mean the version of service that fits neatly in a folder and doesn't make you uncomfortable. He poured 2 cups without asking. The act felt strange, like muscle memory from some life I didn't remember sharing with him. You broke doctrine out there, he said quietly. I saved 7 lives. Held the line, met the safety benchmarks. Every decision I made had a contingency. That's not recklessness. That's command. He didn't look at me. It wasn't yours to command. It became mine when everyone else backed off. He handed me a cup. I didn't touch it yet. You've always seen chaos as opportunity, he muttered. No, I've seen disaster for what it is. A moment where someone has to act, even if it's messy. He dropped into the chair again. You carry it like it absolves you from everything else. That tattoo? I rolled up my sleeve. This isn't absolution. It's obligation. It's names. It's promises. It's standing in a trailer while a woman buries her brother and gives you charcoal ink so he's not erased. He stayed quiet. I sat, took a sip of the coffee. It was bitter and cheap, perfect. You want to be disappointed? Go ahead. But stop weaponizing your embarrassment every time someone asks you about me. Either speak the truth or say nothing. He looked over finally, and for once I didn't see fire in his eyes, just fatigue. I didn't want you to carry that fire alone, he said. Then you should have stood beside me instead of pretending it never happened. The room went still. You could have heard a heartbeat drop. He didn't apologize. He didn't give ground. But he reached for the sugar, stirred my cup like it meant something. It wasn't forgiveness. It wasn't understanding. But it was the first quiet we'd shared that didn't feel like war. I left the lounge without another word. My father stayed behind, still staring into his coffee like it might say something worth hearing. I headed straight to the commissary. I wasn't hungry, just needed somewhere neutral, somewhere alive. I grabbed a plastic container of grapes and a bottle of water, sat near the back, facing the hallway. A man in an old weatherproof ops jacket approached. Late 60s maybe, stiff-legged walk, hands like he still double-checked door latches out of habit. Retired clearly, but not detached. Eyes still sharp. You're Lydia Eris? He asked. I nodded. Mind if I sit? I gestured to the seat across from me. You served here? He nodded, lowering himself slowly. Used to run joint operations before the restructuring. Name's Ron Keller. I knew your father back when he was still in the field. I raised an eyebrow. So you've seen the before times. He chuckled. Yeah, back when he was still more boots than brass. He didn't small talk. Just leaned forward like he'd carried this for years. Back in '88, he said, your dad led a flood rescue op upstate. 2 teams in, rain coming down in sheets. They had to make a judgment call, cross the spillway, or lose the trapped family on the other side. I didn't interrupt, just let him talk. He chose to push forward, looked sound at the time. But the current shifted. 2 men went in, didn't come out. They pulled the bodies 6 miles downriver the next day. I stared at him, quiet. My pulse thudded behind my eyes. They cleared him? Keller went on. Said the decision was within protocol. But that didn't matter to him. Something snapped. After that, he moved off field work, started climbing the admin track. Never again took a direct command role in active ops. I sat back, breathing through my nose. He wasn't cruel, Keller added, but he stopped trusting anyone who took a risk. Even smart ones. Started thinking courage was just another word for recklessness. Watched you rise, watched you make hard calls, and all he saw was a reflection of the moment he never forgave himself for. I looked down at my hands, clenched around the grape container. I'm not telling you to excuse him, Keller said. I just thought you deserved to know where the freeze came from. I nodded slowly. Thanks. He left without asking for anything, and I didn't finish my lunch. I just sat there, staring through the plexiglass window at the gravel lot and the water tower beyond it. I kept seeing my father's face at the gate, rigid, loud, furious. But now it made more sense. He didn't see rebellion in me. He saw failure, his own. The risk I took at Ember Path, the tattoo, the recognition, it wasn't defiance to him. It was the echo of a disaster he never outran. It didn't change what he did, didn't erase the shame he lobbed like a grenade every time I walked in a room. But it gave it shape. He hadn't hated the fire. He'd just been burned too deep by it. And he never knew what to do with a daughter who kept walking straight into the heat. The training grounds were empty that evening, just rows of scorched dummies and a few buckets flipped over for makeshift seats. I walked the perimeter, checking layouts for the next triage drill, when I heard boots crunching gravel behind me. Cole still wore his sleeves rolled up, still moved like someone who remembered how close heat could get. He nodded once, slow. Didn't think I'd see you here this long? Didn't think you'd back me at the gate, I said. Neither did your father. We stood in silence for a beat, listening to the wind rattle the fence. He glanced at the tower rig, then back at me. You remember going back in the third time? Not clearly, I admitted. You carried 2 rookies and 1 civilian. Trees were falling around us. You had a busted radio and no mask. I told you not to go. You weren't in charge. He smiled faintly. No, but I was still your ranking team lead. Didn't stop me then either. He looked down, kicked a rock aside with the toe of his boot. The last one you dragged out? Tomas Jennings. He bled out in the evacuation truck. I remembered his face, barely 23. He's the one who made the promise. Cole nodded. Yeah, right before he went quiet. Told you, don't let us disappear. It hit me hard, even after all these years. The smoke, the weight, the silence that came after. I rolled up my sleeve slowly, let the phoenix catch the last of the daylight. This wasn't to stand out, I said. It was to remember. That promise, that moment. This isn't a badge. It's a ledger. He nodded, slow and steady. I know. We didn't say more. Didn't have to. Later that week, I was walking past the dorm hallway when a young recruit stopped me, looked about 19, hands jammed into his pockets like he didn't know where to put them. He glanced at my wrist, then back up. That mark, is it from Ember Path? Yeah, I said. It is. He didn't thank me, didn't ask for stories. Just nodded once, long and slow, like he understood something heavy without needing the weight of words. 2 days later, a folder showed up on my desk. No name, no request, just a pencil sketch. Rough but careful. The phoenix, flames beneath its wings, eyes sharp. At the bottom, 5 words. My uncle made it out. Thank you. I put the drawing next to an old operations file, yellowed and thick. Ember Path, red tab, cross-referenced and mostly forgotten by now. One was given in ash, the other buried in silence. Both were records of truth. I was in the back corner of the systems room, cross-referencing incident response protocols with live server behavior when something blinked that shouldn't have. Firewall logs were clean, but the traffic map said otherwise. One encrypted stream, buried inside a redundant update queue, running just a few kilobytes every 2 minutes. Small enough to look routine, too consistent to be accidental. I leaned in, ran a trace. It bounced through 3 internal mirrors, all scrubbed. But it was outbound, silent, quiet, steady. And it was pinging a location data node tied to wildfire embed units, which meant if it activated, it could light up every responder's GPS like a damn bonfire for anyone watching. I picked up the landline and hit Cole's direct. Get down here. Quiet. Now he showed up 4 minutes later, sleeves still rolled, eyes already locked onto my monitor as he walked through the door. What are we looking at? Backdoor breach, hidden inside a legacy update script. If this thing flips active, every embedded unit from Montana to Arizona could be compromised. Remote? I shook my head. Local? Someone dropped it from inside. Old code, pre-handoff protocols. Probably written before the new firewall went up. Cole didn't speak. He just keyed in the lockdown code on the wall panel. Steel doors slammed down. The lights dimmed. A yellow bar flashed across the central monitor. System freeze. Live override required. The room went dead silent except for the hum of cooling fans. I tapped into the deeper root shell, fingers tight on the keyboard. This breach runs deep. If I pull the trigger wrong, I'll kill the disaster response network across 6 states. Cole didn't argue. You need another level. I need something older than this system can process. Like, the door clicked open. My father stepped in, holding a black access card with faded red lettering. I hadn't seen one of those in a decade. Legacy Level 9 Override Token. He didn't hesitate. Here, he said, setting it next to my keyboard. It still has root authority. No strings. I looked up at him. No lecture, no hesitation, just the offer. I took the card. He stepped back, arms crossed, eyes focused not on me, but the code flying across the screen. Proxy shadow still active, I muttered. It's jumping between packet headers. Split the node link, he said. Force it into single-channel response. Strip the buffer. Then kill. I didn't respond, just followed the steps. Old instincts kicked in. The same rhythm we'd had years ago, back when I still thought I could earn his respect through clean reports and perfect drills. We worked fast, without speaking, like a crew inside a burning rig. No time for ego. Last point coming up, I said. Ready on kill command. He stood behind me, silent. I took a breath, keyed it in, and hit enter. The monitor flashed once, then cleared. Connection severed. I leaned back in the chair, heart still ticking too fast. My father didn't say a word, just reached out, brief, controlled, and touched the back of my chair. 1 second, then gone. Then he left. Didn't look back. Didn't need to. The next morning, a file landed on my desk with no label, no routing slip, just a blank tab and a heavy clip holding it shut. I flipped it open. First page hit hard. Operation, Ember Path, Internal Review, Classification, Level 6, Restricted Circulation. I kept turning pages, debrief transcripts, aerial assessments, casualty logs, recommendations for commendations, most redacted. But deeper in, I found it. Handwritten notes in the margins. Sharp, blocky penmanship I knew damn well. Contingencies followed. Command justified. Post-loss morale risk, mitigated right beside that, his name. Tieris, circled, dated 14 years back. He'd seen it all. Every rescue, every dead body, every outcome. He'd known what Ember Path cost and what it accomplished. And still, he said nothing. Let the narrative die out. Let the scar stand alone. I didn't close the folder. I carried it across the base, straight to the administration wing. His door was open. He looked up from a report, saw the file in my hands, didn't flinch. You knew, I said. He gestured for the door to close behind me. I didn't. You read the full record, I went on. Signed off on the final assessments. You knew the mission held. I did. And you stayed silent. I did? He said again. Why? He exhaled through his nose, slow. Because the moment it went public, it would have stopped being yours. You would have become a symbol. They would have slapped your face on recruitment posters, paraded you through hearings, turned your actions into slogans. They would have honored it. I snapped. No, he said. They would have used it. I tossed the folder onto his desk. And your solution was to erase it? He shook his head. I was protecting you. No, I said. You were protecting yourself. From the mess. From the noise. But you didn't protect me. You left me standing in rooms where no one remembered. You let me carry that op like it was mine alone. Silence stretched. You don't get to rewrite that, I said. You don't get to bury the facts because they're inconvenient. I never questioned the facts, he said, softer now. I questioned what they'd do with them. Well, you did nothing with them. And that silence, that didn't protect me. It erased me. He didn't argue. I picked up the folder, held it tight under my arm like it might vanish if I let it go. Then I left. No parting shot. No need. Back at my quarters, I pulled out the secure locker, keyed in the code, and slid the file inside. Not to forget. Just to wait. It was close to midnight when the knock came. 3 short raps. Not urgent. Just firm enough to cut through the quiet. I opened the door. My father stood there in civilian clothes, posture stiff, hands in front of him. No clipboard, no rank. Just him. Older, worn, edges finally dulled. He didn't ask to come in. Just held out a small envelope. Thought you should have this, he said. I took it. It was light, soft with age. He gave a short nod and turned. No explanation. No apology. I watched him walk down the hall without a word. Back inside, I sat down on the edge of the bed and opened it. First was a service medal. His, the real kind. Federal level issue, awarded after the '92 interstate floods. It was still pinned to the original velvet backing. Underneath it was a photo. U.S., the day I left for academy. I was 19, hair pulled back too tight, eyes wide with nerves I hadn't admitted yet. He had his arm around me, barely. His face looked proud in a way I hadn't remembered until that moment. I flipped it over. So what you've done is never forgotten. That was all. No signature. Just his handwriting, careful, slanted, like he always printed his reports. Later that week, I stood in front of a group of fresh recruits in the South training lot, 22 of them. Clean boots, blank stares, waiting to be shaped. I pushed up my sleeve. This, I said, pointing to the phoenix, isn't just decoration. I told them the story, not the version from rumors or briefings, the real one. Ember path, the wind shift, the rookies, the loss, the choice. I didn't speak for long, just enough. I didn't ask for questions. I didn't wait for reaction. They didn't cheer. They didn't nod. But they listened, and that was enough. For now.